All right, good evening, everyone. It's been a while. Patronistas number 10. We're going to have a great discussion tonight, mostly about economic topics, but I think we're going to do a little bit of everything. De todo un poco, como se dice. As always, my trusted co host, Henry. What's up, Henry? How's it going?
All is well, live from New York, uh, representing the Dominican American diaspora here in the Northeast. And today we have a very special episode. We are joined by Fernando Abreu, who is from Uni, uh,
Única vida.
Única Vida RD. So he is what I would say, libertarian think tank founder.
Yeah.
First of its kind in the country that I've came across. I think you would agree.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair.
But it was definitely a red pill for me because I've come across a lot of other social media think tanks of some sorts, or what would you say, activism perhaps, covering the social issues and the political issues of the Dominican Republic. And Fernando was the first guy that I actually came across, and I'm like, I like what he's saying. We're on the same aisle. But he's also an entrepreneur, lawyer, and the chief of data for development and economic analysis to the current administration in the Dominican Republic. Thank you again, Fernando, for joining us.
No, thank you guys for the invitation.
It's really an honor.
It's an honor to be here.
No, it's an honor to have you on. I think we're going to have a great discussion because much of our audience are the Dominican American diaspora. Where I'm here in New York City. There's plenty in Boston and all over the country now. And I wanted to talk about your thoughts on the political economy of Dominican Republic post 1965. So basically, when the country, became a democracy, and that was also the same time.
Sort of a democracy.
Sort of a
democracy. I'll explain that later. But go on. Should I start?
I'm not sure. Well, Henry, do you want me to show the video now, or do you want to get that?
Oh yeah, let's share. I pulled up a short video of what Fernando has proposed, so the audience can get a gist. Go ahead, Klaus.
Let me know if you guys can hear it.
Ya, no podemos tolerar más delincuencia. Las causas, según estudios internacionales, son desempleo y pobreza, métodos de trabajo policial inefectivos y corrupción, educación deficiente y de baja calidad, excesiva tenencia de armas por personas con histórico criminal, descuido urbano antiestético y drogas. Proponemos realizar las siguientes medidas de emergencia nacional. Primero, contratar organizaciones internacionales con experticia en el área, el FBI, criminólogos internacionales, el ex alcalde con más éxito en reducción de crimen en el mundo, Giuliani, y empresas reconocidas de recursos humanos para evaluar, limpiar, entrenar y transformar nuestra Policía Nacional. Segundo, otorgar bonos semestrales del 25% del sueldo del policía por cada crimen real que se compruebe tras investigación que logró prevenir con una actuación proactiva heroica. Combatir el desempleo que causa delincuencia bajando seriamente los impuestos y el gasto público, tal como proponemos para inundar de inversiones al país, creando miles de ofertas de empleos. Incentivos fiscales extras, bajando aún más impuestos a empresas de seguridad, monitoreo y alarma que brinden sus servicios a bajos costos a sectores completos, como complemento a la Policía Nacional Pública. Poner pequeñas patrullas policiales, ambos de estaciones y de rotación, en cada de 2 a 3 manzanas de cada sector, mejor distribuidos de modo que estén cubiertos en todo el territorio nacional. Sexto, utilización o creación de fuerzas especiales para entrar a barrios y lugares con focos de alta densidad y frecuencia de crimen para limpiar, controlar, prevenir dicho crimen instaurado. Séptimo, el desarme inmediato con fuerzas especiales de todas las bandas criminales identificadas. Octavo, acceso más flexible, aportación de armas a personas con indicios de buen ciudadano que presenten 1. Título universitario de certificado, 2. Prueba de ser empleado o empresario y 3. Carta de buena conducta. Noveno, el embellecimiento de nuestros barrios. Décimo, nuestra propuesta de educación voucher que quita al corrupto e ineficiente estado del medio y otorga directamente cheque escolar a los padres de los sectores más pobres, garantizándoles una educación de calidad privada. Subir el presupuesto de nuestro Poder Judicial en un 10% para la contratación de más jueces, secretarias, asistentes, para mejorar nuestra efectividad judicial. En adición, a insertar aplicaciones tecnológicas y de inteligencia artificial para mejorar los procesos.
All right, that was a great video. I'm vibing with a lot of what was said over there. It doesn't. These type of proposals are very interesting because you usually don't find that many politicians supporting all these measures. Generally, even though they're very popular among the populace, I'm sure if you do a survey, a lot of people would agree with these measures, but somehow they get kind of a little like, whoa, what's going on when they finally meet someone who's actually proposing them. I don't know what you have to say about that. You're muted. Fernando, you're muted. Can't hear you.
What about now?
There you go. There you go.
Very cool. I was saying, it's not an ideological issue. It's not a left or right thing. It's actually specifically to this type of policy. It's actually a policy that's not partisan, because it's by its nature, it's national security. So many right and left in this case all agree in these types of solutions, except with the part of mixing it with the private sector and free market. The left doesn't like that in any country, but it is a great compliment to have a fast, incentivized private sector security as a complement to the national police in this case. That's only one proposals of many we have forwarded and promoted in the country. We have an entire government plan, and actually the government is doing this right now, but it's doing its reform police. It takes only like one or two ideas of the video you just saw. Not everything, not all the 11 steps, 11 measures, but I think it's going, in this case, not in everything, in this specific issue, is going in the right direction. Although I think it won't solve the problems enough. I mean, it's going in the right direction, but it won't solve all the problems. The video you just saw, the proposal you just saw, would solve a lot of the problem, a big part of the problem, and it's actually based upon other policies and other reforms that actually worked already. For example, you know about New York City during Giuliani, crime went down by 6 times, and you're from Colombia, the Plan Colombia under Uribe actually worked. Then Santos came in and did some negotiations that were not that good. But for a time, when it was applied, it did reduce a lot of the crime. So it works.
Yeah, I did see that. Some of the proposals that you mentioned did sound quite similar to Uribe's Seguridad Democrática. And I was like, oh, I see that there's a bit of overlap here. That's kind of interesting.
It has a combination between the broken windows policy that Giuliani actually adopted.
Hello?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
My, folks, our apologies. But,
Fernando, we can't hear you. I think your internet got cut off again. Alright, so as you guys saw in that video, these are very common sense proposals. They don't seem to be anything that should be controversial. But for some, at least for whatever reason, back home they are kind of. There we go.
oh, yeah.
Okay, I think you're back.
I don't know what happened. I don't know. So I was saying it has an issue.
I think if you don't use your camera, I think it might be better.
Okay. Let's go to podcast. How do I do this?
I think if you take out your camera, it's going to be easier.
Now we're good. Okay.
Excellent.
So I was saying, it's a little bit of both, and it has a little bit of a market incentive too. So it's like Colombia plus the broken windows policy plus free market initiatives. Should I get back to the DR's history, economic history?
Yeah. I interrupted you guys for a moment there,
I wanted to share that video just to give the audience a glimpse of your ideas that you've put forth, and those were one of the things that you mentioned talking about policing is that my parents remembered Giuliani. Well, my dad migrated from DR in '89, and one of the reasons he left DR was because of crime and whatnot, and there wasn't much opportunity and whatnot. But right now, with the current events and the national police, do you think there's probably an opportunity to solve the issue, perhaps collaborating with Colombia? And
there is, and they're going the right direction now with the reforms. For example, they are consulting with Colombia and other countries, and more professionalized policial bodies. But I don't think it's aggressive enough. Still, it is going in the right direction, but I don't think it's going to be aggressive enough. It needs more measures. That is my small criticism and small backing them. Yeah. So that's my answer.
Perfect. Yeah. So
in general, I think you wanted to introduce the think tank.
Right.
In general, we're a think tank that's based upon epistemology. Epistemology is the science, the study of scientific knowledge. It's how to get, in order to get to the truth, objective truth of things, and thereby it's libertarian, because when you base it upon the epistemological process, which is based upon also on logic, scientific logic, and empirical evidence, you therefore get ideas near to libertarianism. And we promote those ideas. We promote government plans and specific policies, and we try to educate the Dominican public to know what works, what doesn't work, what they should promote, and how can we bring prosperity to the country.
Awesome. No, that's really what we need. So we share the channel, and your other content will be shared, like the link tree, etc., in the bio.
We're big on Instagram, which is, well, not big, but the best we have, because we just have 1 year. It's we're on Instagram, and so far it's 16,600 followers, which
Right on.
almost 1,000 is from New York.
Nice. And I'm one of them. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're honored to have you on here.
Shout out to Dominican Yorks and subscribe, guys. Here's the channel. I linked it here in the comments, and it's there as well. If you want to go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
So I brought without further ado, I brought Fernando Abreu to share his perspective on the island and the works that he has done with Única Vía RD. And I think, would this be one of the first interviews that you do in Spanish, Fernando?
In English, you mean?
Oh, I mean in English. Sorry.
As in complete, yes. It's the first one I do complete. In some interviews, there's segments we do in English. You know that Santo Domingo is very Americanized, so there's a lot of English speaking. The middle class is there's a lot of English speaking people in the middle class. So,
as a matter of fact, they speak better English and Spanish.
Yeah. Sometimes they say that, yeah.
But I'm glad that you can join us and you can speak to that audience and others that are just like me that want to come across this information, and that's why I invited you on. So without further ado, one of the main topics I wanted to cover was the political economy of the Dominican Republic post 1965, because in the United States, the last recent census data, the one for 2020, showed that there's over 2.2 million Dominicans here in the United States. There's somewhere over 100,000 in Spain. Then I think Switzerland, 10,000, et cetera, et cetera. And many of that diaspora migrated, I would say, post 1965.
Correct.
And they're, now I would be first and a half, second generation. We're coming of age like now.
You're second generation. Yeah.
Yes. Well, my mom was born here, but she's parents came in 73.
Oh, one of the first ones.
During Balaguer, you're right. During Balaguer's rule, her family is from La Vega, a town in Jarabacoa, and my dad came in 88. But nonetheless, that community and that enclave that migrated, establishing, whether it was in Boston and Washington Heights. And I wanted to bring you on to talk about political economy. What was going on in the country after the April Civil War? Because isn't
I want to make a small introduction to Trujillo, though, because there's a lot of myths about Trujillo.
Too many myths about it. Go ahead.
So the people should understand that, and let's go. Let's do it. We have to understand that Trujillo is usually seen as a right-wing dictator, but that is just false when you see his policies, his actions, his government policies. He didn't have the Marxist view, but he did apply a lot of the Communist Manifesto's policy in its chapter 2. The 10th step to communism in chapter 2 of the manifesto of the Communist Manifesto. He did apply more than 8 of the 10. So what did he do? He did more than 26 expropriations of industries. It's a little less casual, let's say. And also he created more than 6 new taxes. He created income tax for the first time. Not only the income personal tax, but the business tax. Also amplified and increased the sales tax. And he created the property tax. And he created the succession, like the death tax. And the donation tax. And he also created a lot of government departments which here called ministerios, ministries. They're called secretaries, blah blah. A lot of new ones, and he expanded government a lot. Government spending was almost doubling. Not every 2 or 3 years, it was almost doubling. It was a madness. And the only good thing he did was actually the national debt. But we have to put it in context, because we have to understand that it was in World War II, and the exportations went through the roof, because all the developed countries at war weren't producing, because they were all concentrated in the war. Everything was militarized. So the small countries and non-developed countries were supplying a lot of the food and main supplies to the countries at war, the big countries at war. And so with that money that came in from exports, it was easy to pay the national debt. But he then again increased the national debt, and we went almost broke in the 50s. So I could go policy through policy, and Trujillo was
in terms of, because you mentioned agricultural, is this the one that's tied into the whole Trujillo Treaty Act about during World War II, the Dominican Republic did well in the sugar industry?
I see a comment there. Which has his face. That guy is not gonna like it. Okay. But I don't care. I like speaking the truth.
The extent. Yeah. Well, that's what my grandparents
that guy
would say that. Pago la deuda eterna. La deuda.
Yeah, but he paid it in the 40s, but he went and increased it back in the 50s, almost, but by a lot. We went almost broke again. And it went famous worldwide. You all remember la Fiesta del Chivo, la fiesta. You remember that?
Right.
In that, with all that spending, we went almost broke, and that was in international news, and it was one of the reasons he failed at the end. It was one of the reasons they could kill him at the end, because he was weak actually, and the state had a financial problems. So yeah, he paid the debt at the beginning, at the middle, but he went back. So I'm sorry, guys, but the right wingers that like Trujillo is a lefty. Sorry, and a dictator. So, but now we can go to the part of the history you like. After 65, and after Bush and all that, which was a true Marxist, he declared himself a Marxist at the beginning, because at the end he actually went back and promoted privatizing state government companies. So he went a little towards the free market at the end in the 90s, but at the beginning, when he was overthrown, he was a Marxist. I just want to clarify that point before going. But so let's start. Every time I analyze history, we have to take into consideration the political spectrum. And the political spectrum, in summary, because it's very complex, but in summary, it divides into economic freedom and personal freedom. That's how you know if you're progressive, conservative, right, left, blah, blah, authoritarian, libertarian, etc., etc. For example, you can see what's called a Nolan diagram in Google, and you will understand what I am saying. Of course, in all diagrams, all political spectrum diagrams are incomplete and have many problems, but it's just to give you an idea. I actually want to propose in my book one of the first completed diagrams of political spectrum, which is a very complex and it's multi-dimensional, but that's another subject. Let's go back. So let's first analyze it through personal freedom, because it's much faster and easier. And then we'll go in economics, which is more interesting, actually. So since the beginning of the Republic till Trujillo, they were systematically losing personal liberty and personal freedom. Dictatorship was increasing each time more since Pedro Santana, Baez. You go all the way to Lilis, which was even more even a bigger dictator, and then we end up with Horacio Vázquez, and finally Trujillo. After Trujillo, the personal freedoms in the country, which has been continuously declining since the beginning of the Republic, was gradually increasing again after Trujillo, obviously. But there was a short period of time where there was a period of time after Trujillo, which is the first 12 years of Balaguer, that it was better than Trujillo, but it was still a semi-dictatorship. Because there was political persecution, and it had to do with the Cold War, and it had to do with the states, and it had to do that there were actually some violent communists in the DR. So he has blame, but there is also the other side, the communist side, is also to blame here for all that. Both have the blame on all of that. Because there was terrorism by both sides. There was violence by both sides of the picture. And so up till 78, the DR had suppressed personal liberties. By personal liberties, I mean freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, rights to own guns. I mean, basically the Bill of Rights you guys have in the States. Freedom in the personal sense. After 1978, is the real year where our democracy starts, our personal freedom starts, but not our economic freedoms. Now,
I'm curious to ask. 78. When I think of that time, and I asked my.
That's when the Balaguer went out.
Balaguer, and
the first 12 years
of.
And comes Antonio Guzman comes. Yeah, but the game came back in '86. But when he came back in '86, he went democratic. He didn't persecute anyone. He didn't suppress freedom of speech. He didn't kill anyone. Before that, we had problems in freedom.
And the main reason, what I've read, is in '86 was because was it Salvador Blanco? I think. No, Antonio Guzman. Wait, what? One of them. Right?
'86 was a transition from Salvador Jorge Blanco to Balaguer.
Balaguer.
Yeah, because to Balaguer back again.
Balaguer won the election because the inflation and agriculture.
So
and Balaguer was a Go ahead.
So that is in the economic side, which I was going to go next. But basically, to respond to your question, it was because we were doing big government leftist policies. We were controlling prices. We were printing money. Our debt was so big we had to go to an agreement with the IMF, and there were no taxes, and the economy exploded. Inflation went through the roof. Price controls created, on top of the inflation, created shortages, and there weren't basic products. Like it seemed like a rationed economy. Like if it was in war, there was anything. The supermarkets were empty, and the peso didn't have value. So that's why Balaguer comes in again. In part, there's a lot of reasons, but yeah, going back to starting now the economic freedom of our country, history of our country. This one is it's very interesting actually. So in economic freedom, we start with government intervention in the beginning of the republic. I'm going back to the beginning, but I'm going to do it fast. Don't worry. We start with let's say moderate government intervention, which main problem was the printing press. The central bank, which wasn't actually a central bank, but the government had the monopoly of printing money, and Baez, Santana were crazy with money printing, and there was a lot of problems with inflation and the value of the peso back then. And the taxes weren't so high. It wasn't high in any country, actually. And one of the reasons is because all of the revolutions and all of it, independence war, one of the main reasons for all of them was taxes. People back in the days, this was when Marx was starting to write, saw taxes as the reality they are, which is theft, which is stealing, which is robbery. And they saw it as the reality, which is force, coercion, violence, because it's not voluntary. If you don't pay taxes, you go to prison. That's the reality. Or they take your business by force. And people were very revoltive when there were no taxes. So taxes were usually low in the 1800s. But there was a lot of problem with new government regulation and monetary policy, government monetary policy. Not in the States. The States were thriving, except with the war, of course, the Civil War, which was in that period, 1865. But GDP was continually increasing in all the countries. So we had those problems, but government was that big. So government started getting big in the so-called progressive era, which in your case in the States, we have McKinley, Teddy Roosevelt, Taft, Woodrow Wilson, Harding, blah, blah, blah. Those guys, and I'm going to go to the Dominican side too, those guys started the leftist policies, which government regulation. They started the income tax, 1913. They started and invented the Fed, the Federal Reserve, the central bank, in 1913 too, which was Woodrow Wilson, the guy who invaded us.
The biggest progressive president of we've had in the United States. Yeah.
I didn't hear you. Who you said was the biggest progressive?
Woodrow Wilson.
Well, yeah, he was one of the first biggest. I think FDR was bigger than him in progressiveness, but he was one of the first big one on that. Yeah, and he, by the way, invaded the DR. just so you know, in 1960.
So he invades the Dominican Republic.
Yeah,
because there was
because we went broke. So we had debt with them, and he invaded our aduanas. The area we export, and he which was our tariff money, and all of our tariff money, which was the main taxes back then, tariffs. He took it for the States, so we didn't have that money when during the time he invaded, and then that changed when FDR did the good neighbor policy, blah 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 blah. But that Woodrow Wilson was more of an imperialist, just as Teddy and Hart and Taft, etc. But going to the DR now, that we had too much political disestabilization in that period, in the early 1900s. Almost all the governments in average lasted like 6 months. We had a lot of them. There was a lot of political instability, with the exception in that time of Ramon Cáceres. But until the American invasion, States invasion, it was crazy. So economic growth was paralyzed in that time. And then after the American invasion in 1924, comes back Horacio Vázquez, and our government in that period is a little bit bigger, but the States not as big as after the progressive era in the States. Like, you have a bigger government than ours in that time period. Then it comes in Trujillo, and it comes in FDR, and comes in all of the world's leftists, because Hitler was also a leftist, and Mussolini was as well a leftist. I know people go crazy when I say this, but it's true. They actually expropriated almost all the companies, but that is another topic. Just so you know, look up what the Betriebsführer means in German, and that is the state company boss, in which Hitler puts and inserts a public official in each private company with the goal and with the function of managing that business. In other words, there was no private property. Just as Hitler said it in his book Mein Kampf, which says that he first will do the military conquest to conquest the German lands, and then he will abolish private property. And that's because he was a National Socialist. What a surprise. He was a National Socialist. And he did socialism, and there's no difference between the Bolsheviks and the Nazis, other than the Nazis were racist. But by socialists, they were both socialists. Mussolini the same. And the fact that he killed communists doesn't mean he's not a socialist, because communists and socialists and the left kill each other in their internal teams. We have, for example, Stalin, the Stalinists versus the Trotskyites. We have the Leninists and other groups killing each other. The left has always killed each other for power, which is their main goal always. Control powers of everything. So going back to the DDR and the States, I just want to make the point that every country was run by a leftist, sadly, was run by a leftist in that era. Like the entire Europe, blah, blah, blah. And even the capitalists, the supposedly capitalist side, because FDR was a big progressive leftist. Actually, Goebbels, one of the German's top officials, Hitler right-wing man, like his main guy, applauded FDR's New Deal policies. And I have that video actually, and I have posted in Twitter, but he applauded FDR. That's how they close were politically in economics. They were both leftist, okay? And almost the entire world was leftist. So going back to our history, every government, including the DR and the States, grew in that time. I already explained what Trujillo did. It's more than FDR. Trujillo was to the left of FDR, but FDR did a lot of almost socialism. FDR did a lot of social programs. And I don't have to, since you all guys are American, I don't have to go through them. You all know what the New Deal is. You all know what happened to spending. But I'll say something about spending, which is very interesting, and people usually do not know in the States. The Great Depression actually was lasted longer because of the New Deal. After a crisis, an economic recovery, on average, lasted from 1 year to 2 years when government does not intervene in that economy. When government intervenes with economic, monetary, and fiscal expansions policies, like controlling the interest rates low, or printing money, monetary emissions, economics, that's how they call it, or in fiscal policy, like increasing government spending, debt, etc. That intervention always makes that the crisis last longer. The recovery is slower. That's why Obama had the slowest recovery ever. That's why they name his recovery after 2008 the jobless recovery, because it wasn't recovering jobs. It was too long. And the New Deal, I almost confused myself with these socialists now that they call it Green New Deal, based on the New Deal. The New Deal made the recovery, the Great Depression recovery, last 4 years, from 1929 to 1933. When that's like 3 times slower than when government does not intervene in the economy. This is called the boom cycle, the business cycle in economics. But we can do economics another day, because there's a time issue here. I can't explain. That's basically the boom, peak, depression, recession, and the bust cycle. And that is natural in the economy. And when the government intervenes, it distorts that process and makes it much worse.
Right. I think there's parallels with the New Deal, and the bureaucracy it created in the United States, and
evidence shows the data shows that it's just worsens the economy. The recovery is slower. You can see each crisis by crisis, and I have a graph with this, and you can clearly see the more government intervenes with fiscal and monetary policy, the slower the recovery is in each crisis, and the deeper the crisis is.
The Great Depression, I think there's an interesting case study about that specifically, that actually the measures taken by the government to sort of lessen the effects of the Great Depression actually ended up lengthening it.
Yeah, that's my point. It's letting it make it slower. Yeah, exactly. And you get the best book to see this is Monetary History. It's called Monetary History of the United States by Schwartz and obviously Milton Friedman, the famous Milton Friedman. That book is a piece of art. It's filled with economic data. And if economists would actually read it, they maybe would not be Keynesian. Which, by the way, was the reason that Friedman won the Nobel Prize. He destroyed the Keynesian consumption function. Well, I'll explain that another day because it's a bit technical and long for this video. So going back to the economic history, we both, DR states the entire world expanded its governments. We all went full-blown into leftism, progressivism, leftism, etc. After World War I, I'm realizing I'm going more into world history, but it's actually fairly easy to do because the entire world actually did the same thing. So I can actually approach this through world history, including DR in the States. So I think it's a much better way to put it. So going back to almost all the governments slashed their budgets and their spending and their taxes after World War II. What happened? The boom of the 50s. The States did it. Europe did it. And economic prosperity and economic growth went through the roof. It's also because of the economic cycle I described earlier, because it is natural that after a recession, there is a growth again. There's a recovery. That's natural in the economy. And but that was shortly interrupted. And that was shortly interrupted in the 50s and 60s, sadly, with Keynesian economics. So the entire world in the Cold War, inside of the Cold War, including the capitalist side of the war, went social democrat Keynesian economics. That means government expansion, government spending through the roof, more taxes, blah, blah, blah. Yada, 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 how they say in the States. And we did it also with Trujillo, because Trujillo was in the 50s. And the world applied that through at the end of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. In the case of the DR, we did it with Trujillo. We had our sort of recession, and then Bush continued it, and yeah.
And to that, I was okay. So in contemporary time, in say 1996, once Dr. Leonel Fernandez is elected,
yeah.
I remember
you went to. Between the time I was describing in yours, there's a lot of changes. You went ahead fast.
But even between those times, that bureaucracy that say Trujillo created in the 50s was still there, and I think
it was still there, and Leonel actually didn't eliminate them. He didn't prioritize them. That is another fallacy and another myth I'm gonna destroy later. So, but let me get there. I'm gonna get there quick, because if we distort the timeline, maybe people won't understand clearly how thing actually happens. We're gonna get there quick. Don't worry. I'm also have the time against me. So, in the 60s here, the DR, after the overthrow and the Civil War, and Balaguer comes. We continue those same Keynesian economic policies as the whole world also continued it, and we go broke because of that. We do the following things: we grow government spending. We grew the taxes. This is Balaguer. We do a agricultural reform, meaning expropriations. Yes, Balaguer did leftist policies. I have to destroy another myth here. Balaguer, it is not a right nor left. Balaguer was center left in his first 12 years. This is 1966 to 1978. And he was center right in the last 10 years, between 86 and 96, okay? But let me go back to the history. So Balaguer applied leftist policies in his first 12 years, even to the point to do undoing price controls, which is actually insane because it doesn't work. It just creates shortages and products are missing. He did all those policies I described, and we have a little bit of stability in that beginning because of the economic cycle. After a depression, you go back and grow. But after the 1771, thing starts to go bad again because of his Keynesian policies, his leftist policies. Then and by the way, we had more than 26 state industries that Trujillo had expropriated back in the day. We continued those. And they were, with Balaguer, they became going broke one by one. They were starting to go broke one by one. So we get to the change of government between Balaguer and Antonio Guzman. And finally, a full democracy comes in. Personal freedom comes in. There's no more violence, ideological violence, war, and no persecutions, freedom of speech, blah, blah. But in economics, we continue Keynesianism, and it was a terrible government. He actually killed himself, Antonio Guzman. There was a big crisis, and Salvador Jorge Blanco, the next president, which ended in 86, sorry, also continued this Keynesian economics. Our debt went through the roof. We couldn't pay. We went to the IMF, which I explained earlier. There was inflation. We printed money. There was more inflation. And there was a big revolt and crisis. And on top of that, there was a lot of crime too. And on top of that, the state companies were all broke. In Balaguer, they were some broke. By now, they were all broke. And that's obvious because it doesn't work. Government companies, enterprises, do not work because they don't have private market incentives. They don't have the incentive of the profit motive. They're not. They don't risk capital. They're not a doliente, how we say in Spanish. They don't feel the pain if they lose.
Fernando, just to have a devil's advocate argument. And I don't agree with this argument necessarily. I don't. But would you say that it would be possible? Because usually people who are into like government doing a lot of things, they will usually say, "Oh, but look at state capitalism. Look at China. Look at how well they're doing." It's like they use capitalism, but there's the government owns the companies and.
No, because China does the following. They don't run this company themselves. First of all, China has a dual model with economic freedom zones in like Hong Kong, which is actually the second, and for some years it was the most capitalist city in the world in the economic freedom index and in the doing business index. And it is always between number 2 and number 1. It is very, very capitalist. There's very, very low taxes, very, very low regulations. There is no monetary policy. There is no central bank. They have freedom of coins and money.
Very similar to
freedom of currency.
See, currency, yeah. They don't have to go with the Chinese central bank. By the way, they have legal tender of everything, and they choose the currency they want. And so they have that system. In the outside of economic freedom zones, it is actually not a communist or socialist economy. After Tiananmen Square and the reforms they did in the 90s, outside the economic freedom zone, they are actually center left. So much so, they are actually close to the Dominican Republic in economic freedom, like in today's standards. So they have capitalism outside of the economic freedom zones. They have some regulations. They have some regulations, but what is actually let's say, sort of communist is the political system, the authoritarian system. It is not the economic system anymore. They have a center left in almost all of China, and they have an extreme right or an extreme libertarian free market economies inside the economic freedom zones, like Hong Kong. That's the system. It is not a. They don't run a state. They have free markets, and what they do is impose authoritarian measures, like, for example, having to share cameras and visuals with the government, and personal private data with the government, but not in economic systems.
Yeah.
It is
like with artificial intelligence being, it's like the saying goes, AI is communist, cryptocurrency is libertarian.
Yeah.
Obviously, China.
Let me tell you something. A communist economy cannot even work with AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which is superior to AI. Not even with a super intelligence. Why? Because of what Hayek explained, the spontaneous order and dynamic order of market information. It is impossible to predict in all market information, because we're all independent beings with our own conscience, with different tastes, preferences that actually change in the continuum of space-time. And also, there is always innovation and private entrepreneurial new information created. So in order for government to manage economy or a company, it needs to actually have, let's say, control all of our brains, or physically have a camera on each human being and on each entrepreneur and the entire world, because it's a globalized economy. That way it can know how much supply they should offer, because to know what is the optimum supply quantity, you need to know how much the demand is. And in order to know the demand, you need to have what I just described. It is impossible. I mean, you don't need a artificial intelligence. You're not even with quantum computers. You need a god, literally a god. It needs to actually control ourselves and our bodies in order for this to work. It will never work. Not only because of the incentives, also because of the information, the problem that I also explained. Mises also explains a private property problem. But I'm not gonna get into that because it's too long.
I know we went on
and
China.
we actually left the history by half, so that is a problem. Should I continue the history though?
I just need some questions answered, because here's a couple of questions. So Marco says, hello, just wonder if there's a Q&A section. My question is if Mr. Fernando believes that the Dominican Republic should increase free trade and cooperation with the United States.
Yeah, but in a free market setting, not in a controlled NAFTA setting, let's say. Not in a managed trade deal, but a free market deal. But yeah, it should always try to do the most free trades we have, the better.
Right, like Ron Paul said. I think he once said the best trade deal is no trade deal. Just like,
Yeah. Like, I mean, Trump's. If you see Trump's trade policy, it depends on how you see it. Because if you see it as a means to an end, as a strategy, in order to get free trade, this is not bad. Because it's better no tariffs on each side, than the other side imposing of tariffs, but we don't have any tariff for them. It's better if both are free markets than one is and the other one isn't. So if the trade deals had that mission in mind, it is a good thing. The thing is, you need to be practical, because you sometimes, if you don't get that, it's better having a deal, or it's better having trade than no trade.
It's
So
like,
it depends on
as I
how you see
mentioned-
it. At the end, the best thing is free economic trade for both sides. The less tariffs for both sides there is, the better. And there's people who think the neoclassical economic thought, that what we need is to export a lot, not to export a lot. That is a fallacy, and it's false. Because if you see countries that do not produce anything or export almost anything, like Switzerland, they have amazing prosperity, almost no poverty, great GDP per capita, very low inequality, and all their standards are very high, and they export almost anything. They just have banks, chocolate, and maybe what else? There's another thing they do. I don't remember, but it's like
Watches,
3 things: watches, banks, and chocolate. That's basically it.
and I didn't realize, but they're major in the coffee market as well. Switzerland
Yeah.
makes more money selling coffee than Colombia does, even
Yeah.
though you can't grow coffee in Switzerland. So
Yeah, because that is also another point, because they don't produce it. They just a distributor. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
actually fascinating. Economic growth and prosperity is not based on the commercial balance, which is more exports than imports. It is economic freedom. The more freedom an economy has, the less taxes, the less government spending, the less government regulation, the more trade. That is what creates prosperity and low poverty and high employment, or low unemployment, however you want to see it. That is the factor for prosperity for all.
And in regards to the Dominican economy and the working Dominican, how much does immigration affect the status? The working Dominican that aspires to be middle class.
Do you mean our immigration, illegal immigration, or migration?
Well, yes, illegal immigration.
Okay, you're referring to Haiti. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, it creates a problem in our welfare state, in our subsidies, because there's too much poverty coming in, and so it tends to increase a lot. I have the numbers actually. Government spending and subsidies, because we're basically subsidizing another country. So it's very problematic in that sense. Not in so much in the labor sense. Not in the labor sense, but yes in the. So I'm my immigration policy is basically, I'm for flexible immigration if there is no welfare state. If there is a very few government spending, blah blah blah. If you don't get free stuff, okay. But if we have a welfare state, and if we're talking about a country that is very there's a lot of criminality, has no government right now, is anarchy, and has a lot of violence, then it is necessary to have legal immigration, and then in a strong border. You have to have controlled legal immigration, strong border, because of the nature of that migration. It is not so much they're coming to work like in the American dream back in the day, in the melting pot back in the day in States. It is more coming for subsidies right now. Similar to the Mexican problem you have, but in a much dramatic degree. It is another level. It is another dimension of the problem. So that's why I'm for the wall. I'm actually for the wall, but I'm also for a flexible work visa program. I mean, I don't have a problem with poor people coming here, just as long as they're coming here to work and they don't abuse the system. So if they, for example, if they go get subsidies or health, public health, blah blah blah, they have to pay their taxes too. They're not free riders. So it's a mix between strong borders, but a free labor market. Because I also look at it from the free market standpoint.
That's interesting because libertarians are usually open border or closed border, and then if you're
I would be open border it would be open border if we didn't have this type of problems. Like if the criminality wasn't so high, because literally Haiti is controlled by gangs. It is they're part of they're almost a government. It is like Syria right now. Like there are groups that control entire territories. It is not well. There on the other day there were 10 American pastors who are kidnapped by these groups this weekend. That was this weekend. So it is a hard situation, and it is a big burden in our subsidies and economic system. So yeah, free open borders is free market, but if you have a welfare state and you have in the other side a lot of poverty, it does not contribute in this case to more free market. It contributes for more state government. So I think libertarianism in a country like this, it would be more in favor of a controlled situation, and would balance it with work visas, how I flexible work visas, how I described. The only thing it would be required is that a company needs Haitian labor. That's it. If a company needs Haitian labor, you're applied, you get the job, you get the visa. That's it. And do not have a criminal record, at least. Those two.
Right. I just shared for the audience. From CNN, Haiti kidnapped 400 Mawaso gang behind abducting of 17 American and
it was 17
missionaries. Yeah.
At that beginning, it said they were 10, but now it's 17.
Right. And I'm curious because in the United States, like what's the economist, like what is it? The guy from Cato would say that immigrants, they, for instance, like Mexicans come to the United States, and in the future they will contribute to the American economy, and they will assimilate, and et cetera. And in the case of DR and on the island with Haiti, you don't see that being a possibility, or we haven't seen it.
A future contribution, it is so long term that no. Like it is possible in a very free market system, but with our current system, no. Well, with our current system, it's impossible. That would already be possible in a very, very free market system. There I can say yes. And for example, I would share that with Cato in the States, but you got Biden now. So how are they gonna be creating growth in the future with these policies? Like there's no unemployment. It is the unemployment growth is going slower because remember we remember we're after a recovery. Like, I mean, we're after a crisis. It's supposed to recover back, but it's going too slow. So
we're on the verge of I don't even think it's a transitory inflation. I think
inflation is crazy right now. It's crazy for the States. It's crazy.
There's over like
since Nixon and Carter, we don't have these numbers, except in the 2008 crisis by a bit, but it's by a short period.
Yeah, with the housing bubble. Yeah. But in terms of I was going to say before I lost my train of thought. But yeah, with inflation, right? It doesn't seem like it's going to be transitory. I think it's going to be stuck with this generation. Biden is on the wrong side of things.
It will depend. It will depend on the policies that come in, but it seems they are going to do very bad policies, and there is a new spending bill. There's a new plan. They at least it was $3.5 trillion, and at least the own Democrat Party, some of the centrist part, lowered it, and Nancy Pelosi was how do I say this? She was like, she didn't like that. She was
right. I mean,
she was like, yeah. She was going like mad at her own caucus.
Have you guys seen?
I was going to say, have you checked
prices?
out her stock portfolio? She's doing better than anyone else in Congress. It's crazy.
Of course,
insider trading. That's one of the government bureaucrats.
But it's okay when the government does it, guys. It's called. I don't even know what they want to call that. But
sustainable.
Are you open? Are you open to a few questions from the audience?
Of course.
You got some more questions our way. Macho says, should the Dominican American diaspora create a super PAC / unified voting bloc to have more say in Dominican Republic policies?
It's called the United States State Department.
but not a government. It's private. Private.
Yeah.
Private, exactly. Not government.
Right. No.
And if it's not leftist people too. None of leftist super PAC.
Unrelated, but Fernando Abreu, what's your thoughts on the Dominican diaspora? I know that they contribute to.
They're a great contribution to everything in the DR, not only the economy, but just so you know, if it wasn't for the diaspora, poverty, which is 20.6 right now, in the DR would be 60%. It would triple. Whoa. If it wasn't for the remittances.
Right. Remittances, yeah.
Yes. If it wasn't for that. So I personally have a great gratitude for the Dominican diaspora. And I think we should build statues for them. It's incredible.
Nice. And I think the
it is a great part of our growth, by the way.
And and I thank the president, Luis Abinader, for eliminating the $10.
Yeah, that was a very good policy. Yes.
I hope that when I go next month, that it's a smooth.
You guys should have lower taxes. I would propose the diaspora have a lower tax system when they come here, just in gratitude for all the investments and all the remittances you have sent us over the years. I think that would be. I would have to analyze if it would be a lower sales tax or what, but you should have a incentive. There is no doubt about that. We have to reward you guys in some way.
Quick comment on that.
Perhaps in real estate.
Hold up.
Oh, go ahead.
Let's make a quick comment on that. The rise of cryptocurrencies is making that remittances industry so interesting right now. I'm really fascinated to see how the Hispanic community in the U.S. is going to use things like Bitcoin.
Sadly, our central bank didn't legalize it as legal tender.
It's a matter of time, though, because Hispanics are leading. Hispanics are the pioneers in crypto adoption right now. It's crazy what's been going on.
Bukele. It's a good thing, but how he did it is a bad thing because he imposed it through government. He shouldn't impose it. That's crazy. It should be just free, not imposed. And he has a lot of issues right now with that. But if he would just legalize it, legal tender, that would be amazing. And that's what each country needs to do. Right now this is part of the process, but right now crypto is a little bit more used as an investment in trading device than currency itself. Because in order for money, it needs to be super widely accepted and traded, because by definition, money is an instrument of trading between two or more
Right. Well,
objects.
one of the biggest challenges is the intrinsic value part, which I get. I think it's fun, fear, but the other one is that.
But it is a great. It will get there soon, but it is a great asset for humanity, because it will end the monopolies of the central banks. That is a very positive outcome, and we will finally get to test outside of Hong Kong, because that's already an experiment. But outside of Hong Kong, we will finally get to test a free world economic monetary system.
Do you think,
I hope so in the future.
Do you think the current administration today is favorable towards, or towards cryptocurrency?
In the DR or where?
Yes.
The DR?
Yeah. Yes.
Two cryptocurrencies.
Besides listening, hearing from what I heard the central bank last week, it's not money.
No, by definition, they're pro e-government, like digitalizing, but in crypto they still do not understand not the central government, but the central bank, because you know that the central bank is independent, supposedly, in theory, just as the Fed is. So it is not the same concept, but the central government does not have a say in cryptocurrency legalization, but the central bank does, like the Dominican Fed does. So for now, until Albizu is the Dominican Fed chairman, which is called here the central bank governor, it will not be legal tender for now. Maybe in the end he will. He has a strange Keynesian in Chicago mix. He's
I saw that because IFP is on the 30% is on the at least what I see on the news right now, and well, I know this is more monetary, but fiscal policy, things of this nature that it worries me. It
is both, actually. That one is both.
In all parties, what I see is that there's a populist streak in every party in the Dominican Republic.
I didn't catch that at the end. In all parties?
In all parties, there's a populist streak or coalition. Whether it's in
we have a big problem. All our parties are socialists. That's a very big problem here. And the one that has the least socialism is this one, but not in the statutes of the party. It's actually democratic socialism. That's what the statute of the party says, it is part of the International Socialist, and it is part of the Foro de Sao Paulo, sadly. But there are some right-wing politicians inside the party of this government. So it is the most centrist or the most right-wing government inside of the considering that there are socialists. It is the nearest to the right, but they're all socialists.
Macho, is that you?
Yeah, it's me. What's up, Klaus?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, Macho. Tell us your nationality, where you're from, your name, and your question, please. And thank you again for coming on.
Oh no, thank you, Henry, for having Fernando on. This is a really monumental stream. I think during the time and era where Dominicans are kind of getting enlightened in every aspect of what's going on in DR and just their history, just everything encompassing everything, and having him on is just perfect timing and what's going on and the questions we need to ask and the answers that we need. So, I go by Macho. That's my nickname. Washington Heights, born in Washington Heights. I currently live in New Jersey. And
cool, pleasure, Macho.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
What part of
likewise.
Dominican Republic, Macho? I see your Nagiluche fan by your bucket hat.
Y
I'm not.
cibaeño.
Yeah,
Santiago?
yeah, definitely. My blood is Cibaeño. My mom's side is from China. They ended up moving to the capital, for opportunities. My father's side of the family stayed in Santiago all their lives. So
I
yeah,
couldn't get that,
basically Cibaeño.
the audio.
Oh, sorry.
We're
Can you hear me,
losing
guys? Am I loud? Can you hear me?
You're good now. Yeah, you're good. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so guys, sorry about that, guys. Oh, so both of my parents from the Cibao, yes.
Cool.
Macho, what are your thoughts on what you're listening to? Do you have any questions for Fernando? Any feedback, comments?
I do agree that I think of my observation, since Leonel has been in office, 96, I believe, when he got inaugurated, like economically, DR has took a shift. Like it's been this kind of it's been modernizing. Before then, DR was kind of still very behind, compared to, let's say, the modern countries. But
In some way, yes. In some aspect, yes. In what aspect is that? In state companies. But there's a myth that is very important to talk about. Lionel didn't privatize, how they say. What he did was called
capitalization.
Well,
you talked about it with ¿cómo que se llama Pedorita from I'll share the video, but you did a great segment on it, Fernando.
Yeah, I did
about barricade and capitalization.
Yeah, which is basically the state still it's in control of all of the assets and the stocks, and they just open some stocks like if it was in the stock market, and some private capital goes in, but at the end the states the government is still the owner. So it is still public. It is still state run. But what happened? It failed, thank God, in some way. And most of them simply shut down. Like that is not privatization. Privatizing it goes into private hands. Like an entrepreneur, a businessman buys it. But in this case, it just like shut down. It's not open for business because they were broke, and that model doesn't work. Capitalización estatal, it's called in Spanish, and it will never work, and that's why the things that are still state run, for example, are CDEs, are electrical companies. That is why it doesn't work, because it's government owned. The government does not have the incentives. It does not have the information in order to offer the proper amount, quantity of the offer, in this case of electricity. And there's another reason that I haven't mentioned why state-run companies don't work, and it's a reason Friedman talked about a lot, and it's the force. It is the four ways of spending. There are 4 ways of spending that everyone has. You can spend your own money on yourself. When you spend your own money on yourself, you are more careful because you worked the money for it. You know how much it costs. You internalize the cost, and you know the benefits. You internalize the cost and both the benefits. The other way of spending is when you spend on others, with your own money. That is, for example, a gift. Usually a human being, what a human does is it tries to spend enough that the other person is happy, but it tries to lessen the cost the most possible. That is usually the thought humans have in that second way of spending. The third way of spending is spending the money of others on yourself. For example, if you're a executive on a private firm, let's say you're the CEO of Goldman Sachs, and you have a lot of meetings, and you have to go from New York to LA. Usually, when it's, for example, the company's money, spending it on you, you don't go shy on the money. You usually spend it more because it's not your own earned money. So you go, for example, you don't go on coach class, an economic class. You go on business, or you go in first class, and that's the third way of spending. But the worst way of spending is spending other people's money on other people, not even on yourself. They're the derroche, how we say in Spanish. The spending, it goes nuts because there's no personal risk. There's no personal thought into it. And there enters corruption and all of that. And why is that government? Because it's taxpayers' money spending on other people. So it's madness, and that plus the market incentives, plus the information problem of epistaneous and dynamic order problem, and innovation problem, that this government is never efficient on what it does. And that is why on things that are necessary, that government needs to be involved, for example, education or healthcare. That's why we need, in those cases, because we can't also let people die. That's actually a libertarian principle. It is actually the theory of emergency of Ayn Rand. You can't let people die or just have no healthcare or education, blah, blah, blah. What you need to do in those cases, when there's poverty, is input market incentives like vouchers. That's why we promote school vouchers. That's why we promote healthcare vouchers. And school vouchers, for example, have the best results on all the tests, like the PISA test, for example. So yeah, I just want to make that
Of course.
clear.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Augusto, what's up, man?
What up?
How's life, man?
Augusto.
Mhm.
Is that Harry? Harry,
Yeah.
what's up? Thank you for joining
One thing,
us.
I need to go like in 5 minutes, let's say.
Yeah,
All right,
Fernando. So I'm a big fan. You basically saved me. I was a lefty, but it was because of part of our school system that basically show us heroes, people like Juan Bosch, Movimiento
Yeah.
14 de Junio, and I grew up with all these ideas que fueron sembradas en mí por el sistema
Yeah,
educativo.
cultural Marxism, yes.
So once I started studying economy in La UAS, I was, like me estaba liberando, and then
Yeah.
I like start following you on Instagram, and I saw all the things that you basically,
Much appreciated.
ya tú sabes, like all the things that you explain about how this culture, el marxismo cultural,
Yeah,
is
cultural Marxism,
basically
yeah.
impregnated in our culture. But my question is, because it's one of the things that I kind of not disagree, but I
Know
want
more
your
about it,
honest
yeah. Have doubts.
I want your honest
Yeah.
answer when it comes to how the Haitian immigration really affects the Dominican economy, but when also the working class that is basically that has been, o sea, que fueron desplazados
Mhm.
on the primary sectors of our economy, and how that is affecting our people, because you know that we have people, example, in the south that, o sea, nuestra migración ha sido horizontal from our people, and they have land, they have, they have things that can be useful for themselves in the in the countryside, but all of a sudden they are in the capital working as motoconcho, for example, or they are not able to work in the construction because, in my opinion, I might be ignorant about it. Las necesidades del dominicano son diferentes a las necesidades del haitiano. So a Dominican will never work for $10 a day, which is 500 pesos. In just putting an example. So how? Because I know that you are pro organized immigration, similar. You can correct me to the one that Balaguer was promoting at first, where they were coming here with con un permiso, and after they finish la zafra, they will go back to Haiti. But then eso se descontroló, and we have this big problem now that is affecting our economy, because it is affecting our economy, especially on the health field,
Whoa, yo,
and also
I think he left. Hold on. I think you took a bit long, homie. Yo, OG, is that you?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, what's up, man?
yeah,
¿Cómo están?
Bien, bien, aquí.
Estamos con el profesor.
Estábamos. Como que se fue. Did
Well,
he disconnect or what happened?
I'm talking about the minister.
El
You guys don't have
Fernando Abreu.
I think he disconnected.
left. But
man, I wanted to ask him a bunch of questions.
What'd you want to ask him?
I wanted to ask him, just off the top of my head, I want to ask him about the Central American Dominican integration system, and what kind of is the situation with that. What are the future prospects? I want to kind of bridge into, it seems like there's a changing of the guard going on as far as political leaders in that region go. You can look at Bukele as an evidence of that, right? And so I'm assuming this guy's what? Is he a X or a millennial?
millennial. I would.
Yeah, you see, he's a millennial.
My age.
So
X.
I'm wondering.
Z.
I'm wondering about what kind of conferences or symposiums. I mean, basically, I'm wondering how we can gather all the millennial coming into these positions in different levels of state in this region. How can these guys gather together and share kind of fresh perspective ideas and be able to collaborate with each other on that? Because I think our generation sees it a lot different from the boomers, where we don't really fall into those same political ideological dialectics, for one, right? We're kind of more concerned about what works for our countries. And I think...
And OG, where are you from, just for the audience?
I'm sorry?
And just for the audience, where are you from?
Oh, okay. So I'm born and raised in California for the most part, but for about a third of my life, I was raised in Nicaragua. My family's from Nicaragua. So I'm back and forth a lot. I work out there. I live out there for chunks of the year.
Nice.
So, I'm integrated in the region. I not only work with people in Nicaragua, I work with people in Mexico and Colombia, El Salvador.
But your question was mostly geared towards like ethnic unity within the region, Dominican Republic and Central America.
But I'm not even trying to frame it at that. I'm just really trying to frame it as more of a matter of like real politics and economics, right? Like
right.
Sure.
By the way, guys, I'm back.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to introduce you. Hey, Fernando, this is Noel OG del Rancho. He's a great friend of ours.
Hola, Fernando. Pleasure, brother.
Same. So just so you know, this is a good example of what I was saying earlier. The reason why my internet went off is because the government-run electricity company went out. electricity.
Which has been a big
So-
problem for a while.
Yeah. So it's
Plus-
back on now. And it's back on now because we all have private, thanks to the private market. We all have
Fernando, ¿por dónde te
private.
quedaste? Mi pregunta. La pregunta que te estaba haciendo.
So yeah, you were asking, yeah.
So,
Al final, at the end, I thought I was sort of listening that you were more against Haitian immigration.
no, I'm not against. I'm against the Haitian immigration without control because it is affecting our people and our economy. But I know you are more into the type of immigration that Balaguer used to promote once, and
I'm for the wall.
Yes, me too.
I don't know if you heard of that part.
Yeah.
I'm for the. This is my position. I'm for the wall, but I'm for at the same time a flexible work visa program based upon the necessities and the demands of the private Dominican companies, and in a way it doesn't affect the Dominicans because usually the demand the companies have for Haitian labor is a labor that the Dominican does not want to do, not even for free.
Wow.
So, in that sense, it is
can
not
I
a.
ask a question?
So,
But don't-
hold
but
on,
don't-
OG's
wait,
question.
wait,
Hold up. Let OG
Real
ask a
quick,
question.
I do want to interject real quick right there because
Yes, please.
I understand the principles of what you're laying out, but don't Dominicans in the diaspora come to the United States and then do those jobs? I don't think the problem is the job.
Exactly.
I think the problem is
That's why-
the salaries. The cost.
Exactly. That's why.
I couldn't hear well.
It's not the salaries, but it's not the salaries.
I couldn't hear well.
Yeah,
Henry,
it's
let
because
OG ask him the
if you
question.
if you paid them enough, they'll do those jobs. The problem is that the industrialists don't want to pay labor that much, so they rather save on labor by importing a bunch of Haitians.
And
But
that's why we need less taxes and less labor relations.
Well, but the problem is the industrialists don't want to pay Dominican labor its cost. So
Because it's too much regulated.
No, it's not. That's not the issue. Come on, that's not the issue. The issue is they don't want to pay because the Haitian's not going to.
Do you know how much the cost? Do you know how much the labor cost is upon the salary?
I'm sure it's high compared to what.
Very high. It is not like the States. I mean, in order for if you have to cancel.
What is the minimum? What is the minimum that a Dominican laborer, unskilled, untrained laborer, will do the jobs that most? Let's say the Haitian does it for $10 a day. How much does the Dominican want? He wants 50. He wants 60. How much does he want?
Well, they're actually not that different. It is not about. No, it is not even about.
So then,
when you see the numbers, it's like 10% or 15% off in the types of job we're seeing in the minimum wages.
10, 20, or 50. 10, 20, or 50 is a big difference,
15,
brother.
Teen, not 50.
15%.
Yeah, it's around
So
10,
you're saying
15,
10 to
20.
20% difference.
Yeah.
But I mean that.
But it's not. It is not. It is not so much economics. It is more. It is more. It is more.
The thing is that when you.
Yeah.
Of course it is. That's the bottom line. Of course it comes down. It comes down to what are you paying? It's cheaper to pay a Haitian to clear some.
The nature of the work
than it is to pay a Dominican.
The nature of the work.
No, that's not true because Dominicans come here and they do that work, dude.
Let me.
Come on.
That's why, Fernando, it's weird for me that you just say that over 20% of the Dominican population lives in poverty, but then you promote, even if it's organized.
No, well,
Haitian immigration, where we have people that are desperate enough to take Ayola and go to PR.
You have to let me speak.
To do the same jobs that we do.
Guys, you have to let him respond.
You're not letting me respond. Don't be afraid of letting me respond. In the case of the Sancho.
Do you think
okay, so
wait,
hold up, Macho.
Macho, you have to respond.
Okay, so for first the Sancho, then they'll go to Augusto poverty objection. You have to consider the nature of the labor we're talking about. For that labor, the Dominicans are not willing in that labor. We're talking about construction, and let me finish. We're talking about construction and sugarcane, which is very tough labor.
What if you double
They're
the
not.
salary?
They mostly are not.
Invest in technology.
Yeah,
Hold on.
what if you doubled or tripled the salary? Would they be interested then?
By force?
Yeah, you basically increase the
Well,
salary.
you increase
you let
unemployment.
the market. Hold on.
You increase unemployment. You triple unemployment.
No, because you basically
evidence is very clear on that. The more there's a correlation data between first.
You're dancing around the reality that
I'm directly answer your question.
No, you're not, dude. You're dancing around.
I'm going to the point you just did.
The cost of Dominican labor is higher than the cost of Haitian labor. Therefore, firms want the lower cost labor. Now, if the firms don't have access to lower cost labor, in other words, Haitian labor, they have no choice but to increase the salaries offered to Dominican labor. That's very.
It's a two-way street. They accept the contract of doing the labor for that wage. It's specifically because Haiti is so bad that they go to the.
I know, but here's the thing. So what the industrialists save by importing cheap Haitian labor, there is a hidden cost. There is an opportunity cost in that. And the cost is maybe social degradation, maybe a higher unemployment for the native labor. There's other societal costs to importing Haitians. Who pays the societal cost? Society does. So these firms are offsetting their real cost of labor on
not in a free market. In this system, it is.
Why don't you let the free market operate within the nation state, right? If Dominican labor is more expensive, just pay Dominican labor more. It's not like the firms are.
Your definition of free market is not.
Let him talk. Let him talk.
Your definition of free market is not the definition of free market. Free market is free from government intervention. So
I'm not interested in ideology. I'm interested in Dominicans having a good country. I'm not interested in ideologies.
But we have to define terms. I'm not talking about ideologies. I'm talking about
free marketism is an ideology.
Let him talk, Noah. Let him talk.
Free marketism is an ideology.
Pero uno por uno. Okay.
Free marketism does not exist as a concept. Liberalism exists as an ideology. Free market is part of a philosophical and political ideology, but itself, it is not an ideology. It's like the thing is we're gonna
don't get mixed up on that. Let's go back to labor.
We're gonna enter here into philosophy.
So Fernando, you are against the 80-20, la ley del 80-20.
Yeah.
You are against that.
Yeah, I don't believe in any government labor regulations. I don't think that's positive.
Wow.
Base.
Is Agosto the minister? Who's the minister? Is it Fernando or Agosto?
Our guest is Fernando Abreu.
Oh, are you the minister of what are you the minister of?
I'm not a minister of anything. Who said I'm the minister?
Chief, as mentioned, chief and economic development advisor to.
But not the minister.
Not the minister.
So you're an advisor to the minister.
I'm a chief department. I have a department inside the ministry. It's economic analysis. It's not anything to do with immigration.
In economic analysis.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, brother. It's just
it's okay. We can continue this. We can get to the bottom of this. Like, what is your main problem with the free market and the Haitian nationals? What is the main problem?
Well, I'm not necessarily ideological, whether it comes to economics or politics. My views really are more about just the benefit of the bulk of the nation, right?
Mine is based on epistemology, which is the first thing I said. If the epistemology is closer to an idea on another, it's not my problem. It
Right,
is
right, right.
what
So-
the process, what the process, and it is not close. It's not exact to any ideology, to be specific. But
Right. And
the
I wasn't
epistemology
necessarily
process.
accusing it. I was just trying to give you kind of a background to see how I view the world, because I take it we probably have slightly different worldviews. So I was just trying to make it clear for you and the audience.
No, cool. I know you're more on the left. That's okay.
No, I'm not necessarily more on the left. I just do believe that labor is worth its work, right? And I think undercutting and I just want full disclosure.
But you believe in government intervention for labor?
I don't know if I necessarily believe in that. I don't know if government necessarily.
I don't believe in minimum wages. I don't believe in government regulation.
I don't necessarily believe in minimum wages either. But for example, in the example we're talking about, the Haitian cheap labor in DR. Mm-hmm. If you banned Haitian cheap labor, that means Haitians are not allowed to come here to work anymore. It's going to put pressure on wages to go up, because firms are.
But it's less government efficiency. It's less economic efficiency. Here's the thing. There's.
Yeah, but economic efficiency isn't the end goal. What's the end goal is Dominicans.
Of course, it is.
No,
that means that everyone is more prosperous.
No. This is where we differ. You see, you value that. I don't value that. My ideal would be that every Dominican is working and getting a decent salary for his work. That's more important than firms having bigger.
No, it's not about firms having bigger. No. Okay, economic efficiency means prosperity to everyone.
But that doesn't
inside
work.
An economic system.
Importing cheap labor.
But hold on, OG. But let him talk and respond to the.
It means prosperity forever, and that means
that's
lower poverty. That means
bro.
lower unemployment. That means more.
But that's not true. That's not true.
Let him explain. OG, let him explain.
I can give you all the evidence. I could go by one. The freest, with less interventions and less taxes in government spending economies and less regulation, which is the thing we're talking about, are the countries. You can take any index you want. You can take the economic freedom index. You can take the doing business index. And the most capitalist systems, which less economic government intervention, are the systems that have in what?
I don't put value in those indexes. Those indexes don't necessarily measure what I want to measure, right? Those indexes come from abroad and they measure certain things, which is fine, but they don't necessarily measure the most important things. For example, what's the poverty rate in DR? What's the unemployment rate in DR? If importing cheap labor from abroad works, why is there so much poverty and unemployment?
Wait. No, don't go ahead of the curve, because we were talking. You're now changing the subject.
No, because you're we're not changing the subject. You're
because
economics 101.
You just dismissed the
debate with the actual subject. The actual subject is
you use an argument. You use the argument. What was your argument against my argument, which you didn't even let me finish? My argument. I was talking about the index. I said you cut me there, and then use the argument that they're not valid. Now I have to finish first my argument. I have to finish my argument and explain why that measuring is important, because it goes to the.
I'm not listening to you, bro. Let me just ask you this question straight up: Is importing?
Oh, so you don't want to debate? You just want to go
But you're going all over the place. I want to debate a specific point. I want to debate.
That means you're losing the debate, bro.
No, okay.
You're losing the debate.
So fantastic.
If you don't let me do.
Let me ask you.
Listen, if you don't let me respond, you're losing the debate.
Hold up.
You look like nervous.
I wasn't looking to debate. I was looking to question. And I have a question, and you're going all over the place.
But you have to let me answer.
Let me bring the question back. Let me bring the question back.
Hold up. Let Fernando make his point.
But
it doesn't make sense
if you ask me a question. 101. He's giving us propaganda. I just want to ask a straightforward question to you.
Okay, fine.
Listen, no. If you don't let me respond,
you're avoiding the question. You're avoiding the question.
No, I'm not avoiding the question. I was responding to your question, and you interrupted. Don't be afraid of my response. Let me respond.
You're not answering my question, bro.
Of course, I am answering your question.
No, you're babbling.
Okay, let's go. Let's go to the beginning.
Hold up. Let him talk. Okay, Fernando. Sorry. Continue. Make your point.
Okay. Let's go to the beginning, because he did too much fallacies there. Like
Let's make it 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and then I'll bring him back. Just quick.
Yeah. Is he gonna be listening? Because it's not worth it if he then says, "Oh, I didn't listen." So I don't want to.
Well, he left. Oh,
We're
okay, so
we're
I'm gonna say
into
to you guys that happens, and that always happens with leftists because they're afraid, and when they don't want to want to let me.
Noel is not a leftist. That's the problem.
Well, or centrist, whatever.
What I was gonna say.
Let's say leftist in this point, right? Why? Because he was arguing against the economic free system in this point. So the point of all that, his argument was that you can't base it on the free market because you need to have a policy which values more the labor, blah blah blah. So since his response in criticism was that specifically, then I have to prove him I have to do the antithesis to his thesis. So as the antithesis to his thesis, the counter argument to his argument is that what he just said is completely false based upon evidence. What evidence? The systems, the countries that have more free markets, less government intervention, less government regulations, and especially in labor, specifically to labor actually, are the systems that have more employment, greater wages, and I even can share this. And I can even send it to you and you put it at the end of the video if you want. Are the systems that have higher wages, less unemployment, less poverty, and everything is better. Human development, calidad de vida, standard of living, etc. Everything. Happy index, prosperity index, less corruption, everything. GDP per capita, everything.
Right. So to summarize, your argument is that the freer a market is, the more prosperous people are. So his
everyone
question is kind of
everyone is the prosperous. Yes.
So his question becomes,
and that is based upon epistemology. It is based upon evidence, which is
okay.
My thing is not ideology. It's based on evidence. That's the first thing I said in the video.
Okay, so and then why he got annoyed? He's not an economical leftist. Let's try not to, Okay,
I'm not saying
pigeonhole
that.
people into certain ideology.
He's on the left. He's on the left in this point. Let's say that. So yeah, that's what's my response.
I guess.
And to the also the criticism about measuring about the index. I think he needs to study on what an index is and how measurements are done. Because if you do not measure something, you can't establish anything. So there were too many fallacies, and he didn't even let me speak. That was because he knew I was gonna destroy his argument.
Cruzar, yo, Cruzar.
Hey,
hello,
Macho. You hear me, right?
Yeah.
Close?
Okay.
Just want to know my audio's okay. I'll shut up.
Yeah, your audio's good. So here's the issue Noel has with you. He's saying this guy believes in scientism, false dialectics. We'll get to deciphering what that means for you in a second. But his question is this. He says, very simple question. Is importing cheap labor from Haiti good for the Dominican middle and lower class? What do you say?
That is only if the free market does that. In the what's the word? Grado. In the degree, it does it.
Okay,
because you have to understand the market efficiency and information works. It will do the best outcome for everyone. I mean, it is a huge economic ignorance.
So
to think that by force or by a bureaucrat in his seat in his great throne, he could establish the cost of how much the labor could be in this sector and in this sector, and that's crazy.
But Fernando, okay, so here's the thing though. That's what his contention is. He's like, I want good wages for Dominicans, whether the market.
And you will
supplies it
get
or
the
not.
best wages for Dominican with my systems. That is what the evidence says.
Yes, but he says.
But
he
in the
says-
primary sectors,
In all the sectors.
But
So,
as you
Eventually,
said,
you get in all the sector. Eventually, you get the best
I need
wages in all the sectors. That's what the evidence shows.
But
Very
as he's
clear.
saying,
Hold on,
are
like,
the
in
in the
wages going
sectors
to-
and the
are-
sectors
can-
Hold
But
on.
in regards to that, can we get a yes or a no? Is importing cheap Haitian labor good for
Yes.
the Dominican economy? Yes
It
or
lowers
no?
lowers costs. It's good for the consumer.
We do
Anywhere
not
you look,
decide
it's
that.
good.
It is not we as it is not we who
It's
decide that.
globalization. It's done everywhere. It's done everywhere. Look at Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, who does their labor? It's mostly Filipinos.
Immigrants.
Indians.
You have to separate
It's globalization.
political globalization
But
from
at the same
economic.
time, in
free
Saudi
commerce.
Arabia,
But Fernando,
they
you see
don't-
how that kind of
They don't allow the
annoys-
immigrants to infiltrate their most popular institutions, which is the problem in the DR, is that in Saudi Arabia, they wouldn't allow a Filipino to potentially be head of the police. You get what I'm saying? In the DR.
I didn't hear the mic is low
Do you hear me? Do you hear me? I'm sorry. Do you hear me?
a little bit. I think it's
I
a
hear
bit
you.
low.
You hear me? You hear me?
Yeah. So I think Cruzada wants to ask a question, if I'm not mistaken. Cruzada?
It wasn't like a question. It was just like I obviously I agree with Fernando. Like if you look at immigration, it lowers. It's good for the consumer, which is generally good for everyone. It disproportionately, it benefits the poor people since their products are cheaper. And yeah, with like when he was saying of deregulating labor laws, that's 100% true. If you look at in Germany, you look at like the Hartz reforms. They made it easier to fire employees. They made it easier for the employer, and unemployment went down significantly. So yeah, deregulation is obviously like the evidence is there.
Good.
Like
Good for you,
It's-
man. I'm glad you know that. I'm very glad you know that. It is very obvious if someone just studies the data.
Exactly.
Having that idea, having that idea is just that is ideology, because that is, you have to actually ignore the evidence to have that idea. So it will get this is what it produces. It produces the best wages for Dominicans, the best less unemployment for Dominicans, and for everyone else in the economy, the best prices for consumers. Everything, the market way functions in an spontaneous order that it cannot be intervened, because you're going to do more damage. It is the more perfect system inside an imperfect world without abundance.
And that's
Okay.
that's the system that DR has right now.
No, para nada. The system that the DR has right now is very government intervened.
Oh,
It is a
And-
center
and-
left
and-
system.
And okay, so I think we're kind of zeroing in on the main issue. So you would argue that if we took out onerous regulations, excessive regulations in regards to labor
And taxes.
Yeah, the lower class, the Dominican, not the Haitian, the Dominican lower class will be able to, get a job, rise through the ranks, and that sort of thing. It's kind of like the
Very-
tide that lifted.
but what type of that's where I don't necessarily agree with you.
Hold up. Let me finish my point, please. So that's kind of like the tide that lifts all boats thing. So that's what you're promoting. What Noah has an issue with is that he doesn't really believe that's going to happen. So his assertion is that what's really going to happen is that the people who are, the big businesses are going to hire Haitians because they're cheaper, and so Dominicans are being basically, they're not having as many jobs as they should be, even though they're in the Dominican Republic, and those jobs are being taken by Haitians.
That is
So
a
they're
economic
not
ignorance. That is a very economic ignorance, because first of all, industries don't always go for the cheapest labor.
No, it
There's
depends
something
what
called
industry it is.
something called human capital, guys.
It depends
O sea,
what it is.
It
That's
depends
what
what it is. There's too many factors. That is just a very, very old idea, which lots of ideology have already overcome. Not only in the
Look,
right.
and I don't mind Haitians.
That is actually a
working,
Marxist value
but-
theory. That is labor Marxist value theory.
Yeah, but I have a problem. I have a
the
problem. I
the
have a
industries
problem with it.
are going to
Hold on.
exploit the
Let
less
Macho
cheap
talk.
labors in
Let Macho
the
Yeah, I just want to
labor.
say one thing. I understand about economics. That's good. I think, like I said, in the past 20 years, DR has had great economic success. But going forward, I feel like DR, to me, I always say this. The Dominican is basically a guy with expensive suit that doesn't take a shower. Meaning that we're hiding our inefficiencies through these nice buildings, through these luxurious hotels, through these nice projects. But education is still low in the world rankings.
Yeah, that's because we don't have the voucher system.
Yeah, but that's been education in DR has been a problem for over 56 years.
Yes, and it will be a problem as long as government runs it centralized. It will be.
I mean, look at China though. China's number one.
China?
Yeah.
The China what? I didn't get that.
But China's number one in education, and it's state run.
Well, it is. Here's the point.
I don't think it's really state
we went through this.
Here's the point. Here's the point with China. You have to take into consideration the thing I said China earlier. China has a system. First of all, it has the most capitalist system. It is the most capitalist system inside economic freedom. Outside of that, it is not socialist. It is not even social democratic. It is center left capitalism. That is actually measured already. It is measured in the doing business. It's measured in the economic freedom index, etc., etc.
But that's not China back then wasn't like that.
Do you think education in China was good under communist China in the Mao? You think it was good back then?
I don't know, but they're
no. I can tell you it was awful. And people didn't have it. No, people were starving. They didn't even have food. They would less have education.
So when did the Chinese really come in?
After the 90s, when they went capitalist.
When they went capitalist, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the school systems in China are state and private,
they have state intervention in not in economics. They have state intervention in personal and privacy data and in personal liberties. They are authoritarian, and economically they even have private initiatives. The Chinese education system actually has private initiatives. And do you know which is the health system that has more private initiative inside of it? Is Singapore.
I always said, who said that? I think Leonel said that he wanted DR to be like Singapore.
Santo Domingo, Singapore.
Santo Domingo to be like Singapore.
Wait. Before we get into that, if you can answer this question, it says, yes, there's something called human capital, but human capital is most important for high school jobs. How many jobs in DR are high skill versus low skill? You have to free the system for the human capital to develop. You can see that in all the economic data. You can't have a high skill jobs if you don't free up the system. You need investment, private investment. So there are jobs available. So there is more money in the economy and there is more better education.
You need to create jobs. Yes.
You
can't have it in an intervening economy. You can't have that in a center-left economy.
No, but what we're saying is that at least what I agree with is that if we modernize and reform the current impediments we have today, then we can get a better gauge on where we are in human capital. It's kind of like
just so you know.
If I may, real quick, just like in the 1960s when Singapore was free from British rule, Lee Kuan Yew went to Jamaica and he asked Manley at the time, so what are you going to do? We were just both free from British rule, and Manley responded with tourism, and Lee Kuan Yew said, well, I don't want to go that route. I want to go the human capital route. And obviously both of them resulted in different economic statuses today.
Well, there are also other factors in that as well. By
the way, guys,
for another episode.
My time is getting. I have a lot more stuff to.
Okay,
so running out.
One more question. From OG,
thank you.
Mexicans, hold up. Mexicans and Hispanics are taking over the Southwest of the United States because of corporate greed.
Wait. Pause right there. And you say that he's not a leftist and he has the Marxist language inside. Corporate greed is a Marxist language. Or are we clear of that, right? He is left.
You calling Jarancho a Marxist?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying he's left because he has the Marxist language. Corporate greed? That is
It does work.
that is the Marxist dialect.
But
That is the that is the class struggle.
But can you address this point? Like we can get
Well,
into
I
coded
didn't
language. We can get into coded languages and
No,
all that.
I just want to make that pause because you told me earlier he wasn't, but he actually I know how to identify, and he right there. That's
His dog whistling leftist words. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry for that.
All right, so it says he's telling you keep using these policies of importing Haitian labor. He's referring to, and the Haitians in Dominican Republic will do the same, as in take over the other side of Hispaniola. That's what he's saying.
That doesn't make sense. Like Mexican and Hispanics are taking on keeping you. Okay, well, there will be some Haitians here, but we actually no one knows. It depends on the market. This is called what Hayek called government ignorance. We think that from central planning we can know what's going to happen. That is actually impossible because what the spontaneous information description I told you earlier. It is impossible to know what's going to happen, the economy, because everyone, the corporation, how the greedy corporation, how he calls it, have to make their economic calculus based on the demand and what people want. And in order to do that, everyone needs to socially coordinate in a dynamic and spontaneous way with different preferences, different tastes, different circumstances, and different elements in each human being, which is continuously changing in space-time, in the continuous space-time. So that is just pure what Hayek called the fatal arrogance. That is just the pretense of knowledge. We can't know that would happen. It can't be all the way around. It can be that Haitian go back to their country. It can be actually the Dominican.
We cannot combine the country. That's a no. We cannot do that because then we're gonna be erased, and we can't have that happen.
I'm not favor the fusion. Remember for the wall. We're forgetting that.
Okay. So
we're reading that.
No,
we need to be economic efficient.
Let's try to zero in even further. So you would be okay with the DR becoming Haitian if the market decides that it will be so, correct?
When you say Haitian, do you mean it can't be mathematically that is impossible. Mathematically that is impossible.
But Klaus, it won't. You got to take into consideration
there can't labor has a top if the market and it will not go that way to the extreme because there's economic incentives. The market will determine the best system for everyone. It probably is going to go to the other side, though. It's probably going to go to the other side.
So you think that the market will not have Dominicans be replaced in their own country? You think that the market is not going to allow that to happen?
No, I think that won't happen. But again, I
never know. Exactly.
I can't speak in absolute terms.
I understand that. I understand that. But that's kind of like your educated guess, so to speak. Like you would argue.
Yeah.
You would
usually
that
the value for nationals will go much more because they have more. They're part of the culture. They have more human capital already. There's a lot when an economy is growing, human capital gains importance, and the people with more integration, with more education, with more human capital again are the ones that are going to rise more. So everything suggests that it will not, but I don't want to try to be more perfect than the market, because once again they always give the best outcome by far.
Okay. But moreover,
let me put it another point. Let me put it this way: the best Dominican first policy, like Trump America First, the best Dominican First policy is free market.
And
And
why is
Trump
that?
actually understood that in some sense because his
And
trade
why is that
policies,
for the demand?
his trade policies were actually for fewer tariffs, and people forget that.
Yes, yes.
But Fernando, it seems like
Let's
you're
not
putting.
become let's see it this way. Let's not become socialist in order to be
No. We
nationalist.
can't be.
Let's see
We
it that
can't.
way. Let's not go towards socialism or
But I
closer to
think we have to
socialism
spend.
just
We
to
have
be
to
more
spend more money.
nationalist.
We have to spend more money on infrastructure. That's clearly a fact in the Dominican Republic. So we're talking about economy. I think we're talking about budget spending. I think that's a perfect thing. Budget spending. We need more budget spending and infrastructure. I mean, traffic is terrible over there.
I
People
don't agree with
respect-
Keynesian economics, but we'll talk about that in another.
Okay,
another
so-
time we're gonna have to go.
Fernando, speaking of which,
I don't want to address
Fernando.
infrastructure on the next episode.
Hold on.
In another, we can do it in another. 'Cause
Fernando, my apologies, but would you be interested in joining us again in the near future? Obviously,
of course.
we opened it. We opened it not to get leftists to jump on you or whatever.
No.
but rather
I
to
don't
ask you the
have
tough
any.
questions that
I don't
are
have.
needed.
I don't have any problem with leftists coming in and debating. I love that because they always lose. It is not because I don't think I'm a genius. It is just because the truth, the data is it's more on one side. That's why they're afraid of letting people speak of.
Los zurdos no les
Fernando,
gustan los datos.
hold on, Fernando. Will you be willing to have a debate with OG in Spanish? Here, it's the same guy you were talking to like a couple minutes ago. He left, right? He's the same guy, right?
Yeah, I'm open to having a debate, but with anyone.
In Spanish.
In Spanish, yes, but not with just one person. I need more than one person because there's a lot of reasons I'll explain later, but I don't want to give too much importance to one person.
Okay.
So if you leftists, yes.
We can set that up as well. Fine. Sorry, I cut someone off.
2 or
Someone
3,
else asked
4
a question,
leftists,
I'm sorry.
6, 10 leftists, one by one. That would be nice.
Yeah, I'm not a leftist, so I won't join that panel.
Okay. So yeah, there's no problem.
So I do agree. Okay, before you go, Fernando, I didn't really get my answers questions. A lot of people. Just one thing I just want to address. My observation as a Dominican diaspora, we mentioned that we contribute, I think, over 40% towards the economy out of our what is it, the money we send.
In poverty, the poverty would be 60% if it wasn't for you guys.
Yes. Exactly.
Oh, and by the way, the point about poverty earlier.
I was gonna.
That's important.
Before you go, I'm just saying real quick, and then you could go. All right. So that I feel like Dominicans should have a voting block, a more powerful voting block in the DR, since it's like almost a shareholder to a company. If we own 60% of it, I think we make most of the major decisions. Don't you agree?
It makes sense. I think you should have.
I think you should have. Fernando, I think we'll talk too. I want you on my show, which will be a much more intensive into the Dominican stuff and other stuff. So yeah, definitely. That's all I wanted to say. And go ahead, Fernando.
Yeah, and I'm actually for a special tax breaks and lower tax rates for diaspora.
Yes.
Because somehow we have to recompense for all that. Yeah.
Give vouchers.
Back to the poverty form, and then I'm leaving. Someone said, I don't remember who it was, but someone said that if I actually believed poverty is 20%, we have to know what measures are and how things are measured. Poverty, we have to know what the poverty line is. That just means that people that get by the basic, what we call here canasta familiar, the basic food for survival. That means that 20% of people basically survives on basic necessities. That all that means that 20% doesn't mean that above that is middle class. Above that, and now you're gonna get the picture. There's a 40%, which is called in Spanish la clase vulnerable, which is basically an upper poor class, or some call it a very lower middle class. And that group is 40% of the population. So if you consider relative poverty, it is actually 60%. if you consider that class also poverty by your standards, that by American standards, that is poverty. And the 20% I said is 60 without the diaspora's help is the extreme poverty that I first mentioned, the first 20%. So the 60% I mentioned, the last 60% I mentioned, will be much higher without the diaspora's help. So just so you know. And I have to leave because it's here. It's 12 in the morning.
Yeah,
almost 1 in the morning.
Thank you very much for
Yeah,
So
coming.
thank you guys.
We should
Fernando,
we should definitely. You got OG a little bothered because he would say that you kind of danced around his question. So hopefully,
Well, in the video is very explicit. How I explain later. How I directly response even to his argument, thesis and antithesis, and I said step by step how I didn't dance, but actually respond him quite directly. And the thing is, he doesn't like that it actually destroyed his argument, but it's very evident in the video. I watch anyone who see this video. I invite him to go back and see that for himself.
Hopefully you'll catch him on a good day. We'll catch him on a good day. We'll be able to set up.
It doesn't matter, good day or I don't care about good days. It's okay. I actually like when they get angry. It's okay.
Hey, Fernando Abreu, again, I'm honored. We're all honored to have you on. It means a lot to us and the diaspora.
Yeah, Fernando.
And the tough questions that you faced. I didn't tell you that you were going to face that, but
no, that's
well.
I'm always expecting. I like that. I don't like easy questions. So
we got our own Dominican Ben Shapiro. I'm joking.
Sometimes they say that.
Fernando, look, would you be interested or willing to engage in a part 2 of this or a future conversation with perhaps
yes,
OG,
of course,
or maybe we can get a more moderated and a more structured conversation going? But if you are, I think we should definitely do that. I think it'll be a great,
yeah, we can in
yeah, we can
like these 2 weeks I'm very busy, but in a month or so we could do another one.
No problem. And the other point, yeah, again, we're all honored to have you on and to hear your expertise and talk about the political economy in the first half of the hour. And of course, thank you for taking what we call the hot seat on this show, Patronista. So you did well. You fared well.
I thought it was the cold seat, but it's okay. No, I'm just kidding.
No. We're not here to set you up or anything. We're just here to reach out to us and the Dominican diaspora here in the U.S. and greater Hispanic diaspora that are from neighboring countries that also have.
If you have leftist friends, I'm not speaking about the first person. I don't remember his name, but if you have leftist friends,
he's not a leftist.
No, I'm not. I know. I'm not speaking about him. That's why. But if you have leftists that would like to argue, you can invite them.
We'll do. Klaus, do you have any final thoughts or?
No, I'd just like to really thank you for coming in here. I really appreciate the fact you give us your time to answer a lot of these questions.
And in Spanish.
I know it got a little heated, but hopefully we'll be able to segue.
Don't worry, guys. If you see my my social media, this is actually not so heated. I like it when it goes really, really heated.
All right, so we can turn up the heat though next time. Hopefully,
yeah, but by a lot, please.
Here, God willing.
Good. Yeah, no, Fernando Abreu and I and Macho, we're all Dominicans of the same. Oh, even Augusto Tapia, we're all Dominicans, and we all want the best for Dominican Republic. So, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask some more questions. I didn't really get any answer to my questions, but I'm very interested to know, especially about
Me
how
too.
the Dominican diaspora, like how we contribute. Like I think seriously, we should really get together to get a powerful voting bloc and really influence Dominican politics and really have our say, like
But
really have our say within that society. You know.
Yeah. Well.
but
I
Keep in
really
touch
because
with
I,
Fernando.
re- I
thank you guys. I appreciate. I have to leave, but I appreciate it a lot. We'll be in touch.
Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot, bro. Yeah, have a good one. Take care.
Good.
All right. Good night. Que pase buena noche.
All right,
And
guys.
that is it.
Thank
I
you
really
guys
want
for
like
watching.
okay.
Oh yeah, sorry. So thank you guys for watching. I think we're gonna conclude it here. But Henry, do you want to set up an asado afterwards? You know, just.
Yeah. Are you two gentlemen, Augusto and Macho, interested?
Yeah,
in,
I'll be down. Let's do it
All
now.
right. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go.
It's been a
Okay.
minute. It's been a minute. All right, let's go. Thank you everyone for coming. You know, we like to keep these clean. So
See you there. 30
the-
seconds. In 30 seconds, drop the link on this on the comments here, and in 30 seconds we'll go from there. Peace.
Okay.
all right.
Peace.
Peace out. Take care.